Module covers the fiber IP-20N shelf management. The agenda of this module covers the following topics. Connecting to the unit. Chassis configuration menu, 1 rack unit version and 2 rack unit version. Allowed card types. Slot limitations and adjacent pair guidelines. Connecting to the element can be done via web HTML or command line interface with the default IP address of the element. Each IP-20N comes, by default, with the IP of 192.168.1.1. To access this address, you need to connect your computer, via an Ethernet straight crimped cable, to the management interface of the device, as shown in the right side of the screen. Your computer needs to be in the same subnet as the network element for proper connection. The default username and password to connect are admin and admin. This information can be used for both web login and CLI login. For the CLI login, you can use a hyperterminal software, like PuTTY or Telnet from Windows. There is a secondary way to connect to the element, via a serial cable, that is connected to the terminal port of the IP-20N. To be able to connect via this serial connection, the interface needs to be set on your computer to these parameters. Baud rate needs to be 115,200. Data bits needs to be set to 8. Parity needs to be set to none. Stop bits set to 1. Flow control set to none. Serial connection is possible only via command line interface, no web login. If you use the above parameters, you will be able to connect to the unit via serial connection, and from there, you can use the commands specified in the next slides. Here you can see the shelf management menu, under platform, shelf management, chassis configuration. This example comes from a 2-rack unit IP-20N. This is a good time to also present the web menu in a little more detail. Please see the menu tree to the left of the screen, the configuration area in the middle, where users can configure the cards and interfaces they want to use. To the right side, you can see drag and drop menu, where users can drag cards from and place them in the right slot on the middle configuration area. For example, if you want to configure the first card on the right side, which is a gigabit line interface card, you drag and drop it into the correct slot of the middle view. For our example, that gigabit line interface card can only be used in slots 2 and 12 from the unit. Slots numbering starts from 1, in the lower left, continues to right and then up. So, slots 2 and 12 are the ones next to the power distribution cards. After dragging and dropping the card, the user needs to press the grayed out button Configure, from the selection area view. After some few seconds, the cards will be enabled and powered, if they are present in the slot. Only after this step, the cards can be enabled and used in the configurations. To the lower side, you can see the selection area, where user can enable or disable multiple interfaces selected from the configuration area at the same time. This lower selection area menu also gives the option to reset the complete chassis, or even set to default command. Here is the same view, but this time, for the 1-rack unit IP-20N version. The same menu tree and the same windows are visible here. IP-20N version 1R, you can hold 1 dual-feed power distribution card, and the PDC card must be inserted in its designated place in the chassis, only in slot 51. A single PDC power feed is sufficient to power up the entire chassis, but it is not redundant. The first in the chassis is always the traffic and control card, or TCC. This card is the main component of the system. It controls the entire chassis as well as all traffic flows. The TCC card must be inserted in slot 1 and only there. 5 other universal slots are present, which can hold various cards, based on the functionality, configuration and setup of the system. In the following slides we will review these cards as well. 2 additional components are 1. Filter tray, optional, is used to protect the system from dust, has a designated place at the left side of the chassis. 2. Fans tray, incorporate 4 fans inside, has a designated place at the right side of the chassis. IP-20N chassis supports a common set of cards for traffic, radio interface, and management, as follows. 1. Traffic and Control Card, or TCC, needs to be used in 1RU and 2RU chassis. This TCC contains 2 1 gigabit Ethernet combo interfaces, either electrical or optical. 2. Radio modem cards, or RMC, with the following versions. RMCA, based on the same modem technology used in Ceragon's fiber IP-10 series, for backwards compatibility links with IP-10G and D. RMCA supports up to 256 CAM with adaptive coding and modulation. RMCB can be used with RFUC and 1500 HP or RFU-HP radio units. This card supports up to 2048 CAM with adaptive coding and modulation, XPIC and header deduplication. RICD, RFU interface, for use with all the new RFU, supports up to 4096 CAM, integrated power over Ethernet. 3. Line interface cards or LICs with these variants. Ethernet electrical line interface card with 1 gigabit combo interface and 3 gigabit electrical, RJ45 interfaces. Ethernet optical line interface card with 1 gigabit combo interface and 3 gigabit optical interfaces with SFP cages. TDM line interface cards in these variants. 16E1 TDM card. Channelized STM1 TDM card. OC3 or RST Clear Channel 1 STM1 TDM card. These are the allowed card types per slot for the 1 rack unit IP-20N version. Slot 1. Only a TCC card can be used. Slot 2. All of the cards can be used in slot 2. Slots 3 to 6. All of the card except the Ethernet line interface cards can be used in these slots. RMC, radio modem card. RIC, RFU interface card. Note the comments that apply depending of the TCC card used in the terminal. IP-20N version 2R, you can hold 2 single-feed power distribution cards, and the PDC card must be inserted in its designated places in the chassis, only in slot 51 or 52. A single PDC is sufficient to power up the entire chassis, but it is not redundant, so for power redundancy both PDCs must be used. The first in the chassis is always the Traffic and Control Card or TCC. This card is the main component of the system. It controls the entire chassis as well as all traffic flows. The 2-rack unit version can accommodate 2 TCC cards, which must be inserted in slot 1 and slot 11 and only there. 10 other universal slots are present, which can hold various cards, based on the functionality, configuration and setup of the system. In the following slides we will review these cards. 2 additional components are: 1. Filter tray, optional, is used to protect the system from dust, has a designated place at the left side of the chassis. 2. Fans tray, incorporate 4 fans inside, has a designated place at the right side of the chassis. IP-20N chassis supports a common set of cards for traffic, radio interface and management. Traffic Control Card, TCC, can be used in 1RU and 2RU chassis. Contains 2 by 1 gigabit Ethernet combo interfaces, electrical or optical. Radio modem cards, RMC. RMCA, based on the same modem technology used in Ceragon's fiber IP-10 series IDUs, including IP-10G and IP-10E. RMCA supports up to 256 CAM, with ACM. RMCB can be used with RFUC and 1500 HP RFU high-power RFUs. Supports up to 2048 CAM, with ACM, and header deduplication. 1 RMCB also supports XPIC. RFU interface, RIC-D, for use with all the new RFU, supports up to 4096 CAM, integrated power over Ethernet. Line cards, LIC. Line cards with 1 gigabit Ethernet combo interface and 3 gigabits Ethernet electrical, RJ45, interfaces, can be inserted only in slot 2 and 12. line cards with 1 gigabit Ethernet combo interface and 3 gigabits Ethernet optical (SFP) interfaces can be inserted only in slot 2 and 12. Ethernet, LIC, X, E10, 1X10 can be inserted only in slot 2 and 12. TDM, LIC T16, containing 16E1S. TDM, LIC T155, containing 1 channelized STM1. TDM LIC STM1, OC3RST, containing 1 STM1. The card types allowed per slot for the 2-rack unit version of IP-20N are: slots 1 and 11 can only hold the TCC cards. Slots 2 and 12 can hold all of the cards. Slots from 3 to 10 can hold all of the RMC, RICD and line interface cards, except for the Ethernet line interface cards. RMC, radio modem card. RIC, RFU interface card. Note the comments that apply depending of the TCC card used in the terminal. To configure the correct card in its slot, drag the card to the slot number. If you click a card, you will see a blue rectangle around slots you can put it in. You cannot more multiple cards at the same time. This needs to be done one at a time. However, you can press the configure button highlighted at step 3 for the whole chassis at once, if in the previous step you added multiple of them correctly. Then, enable the admin status in the selection area for one or multiple cards at a time. If you want to do it for multiple cards, just make sure that you have them selected in the configuration area by clicking on the desired slot sticks. This table shows slot limitations when used with TCCP2 or TCCP2X GMC. When a second Ethernet LIC is installed equals the 2 gigabit Ethernet interfaces on the TCCB or TCCB-MC are disabled, resulting a total of 8 gigabits Ethernet interfaces per chassis. When using a TCCB2 or TCCB2X GMC, avoid placing any type of traffic cards, Ethernet LIC, TDM LIC, and RMC, in certain slots. If you place a traffic card in one of these slots, some interfaces on the TCCB2 or TCCB2X GMC cannot be used, as described in the table. So, if you use any traffic card in slot 9, then the 5th gigabit Ethernet interface cannot be used anymore. If you put any traffic card in slot 10, then the 6th gigabit Ethernet interface cannot be used anymore. If you put an Ethernet traffic card in slot 12, then SFP1, SFP2, Gigabit 3 and Gigabit 4 on the TCC cannot be used. If you put a TDM traffic card or radio modem card in slot 12, then Gigabit Ethernet 3 cannot be used. Now, for some guidelines in how to use adjacent pairs of cards with the IP-20N. RMCs that are planned to be used in XPIC configurations must be placed in adjacent pairs, as follows. Slots 3 and 4. Slots 5 and 6. Slots 7 and 8, 2-rack unit only. Slots 9 and 10, 2-rack unit only. If you're configuring 2 plus 2 HSP with XPIC, you must configure the radio protection group in non-adjacent channels. For example, slots 3 and 5 or slots 4 and 6. That is because the XPIC groups must be configured in adjacent slots. For example, XPIC group number 1, slots 3 and 4. XPIC group number 2, slots 5 and 6. Protection group number 1, slots 3 and 5. Protection group number 2, slots 4 and 6. 2 plus 0 XPIC configuration is not available for RMCs in slots 2 and 12. When using a TCCB2X GMC in 2.5 gigabits per second mode, only the following cards can operate: RICD, RMCB and LIC STM1 OC3 RST cards that belong to a multi-carrier ABC group. Other types of cards, or radio cards in multi-directional mode, will not operate in these slots. Therefore, to facilitate future upgrades, it is recommended to populate these slots with RICD, RMCB and or LIC STM1, OC3 RST cards that belong to or may later be assigned to a multi-carrier ABC group. 1 route chassis, slots 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 route chassis, slots 2, 4, 7 and 8. If two multi-carrier ABC groups are created, and assigned the names Group 1 and Group 2, any cards in slots 3 and 4 must be assigned to a multi-carrier ABC group. Cards do not have to be assigned to the group that corresponds to the slot. For example, card in slot 3 can be assigned to ABC Group 2. There are different guidelines when the IP-20N unit is equipped with RIC-D and RFUD or RFUD-HP. The maximum allowed number of RIC-D cards is 4. RIC-D cards must be installed in slots 3, 4, 5 and 6. For a 2x4 plus 0 multi-carrier ABC groups, 1 gigabit per second. In IP-20N with 2 rack unit chassis all slots can be populated. When 4x2 plus 0 multi-carrier ABC groups, 1 gigabit per second, are configured, slots 7 and 8 cannot be populated. Additional guidelines RIC-D and RFUD or RFUD-HP. 2x2 plus 0 multi-carrier ABC groups with RST, 1 gigabit per second or 2 gigabit per second. 2x4 plus 0 multi-carrier ABC groups, 2.5 gigabit per second, must be set to 2.5 gigabit per second mode. The current module has covered the following topics. Connecting to the unit. Chassis configuration menu, 1 rack unit version and 2 rack unit version. Allowed card types. Slot limitations and adjacent pair guidelines. Thank you for your attention.